Spikes up about $1 on the open Sunday night,
Yep.
then flat, then rallies more up to almost 27.50. And my question to you, Keith, what happened this morning between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. that silver lost $2.50 of value? Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. Happy holidays, whatever you may be celebrating. Maybe it's just the silver price being up a little bit, but want to send holiday wishes and greetings to everybody out there. And as a little Christmas present, I have my friend Keith Anderson on the show for the second time. And Keith is of Silver Sands Resources, one of the companies that a lot of folks got to meet you at Silverfest, Keith. It's kind of pretty cool. You're one of the companies at the inaugural first Silverfest, and it was awesome to get to learn more about what you guys are doing there and have you there answering questions. So pleasure to have you here, and welcome on in. How are you today?
Hey, I'm excellent, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show today. This is it's a pleasure. And it was also a pleasure being on Silverfest. I mean, I was the first one and I'm hoping to be on many more.
Yeah, well, there may be an industry party in the Bahamas coming up. I don't know. It's just,
I'm in.
Just something I heard, because it's like I keep hearing people are like, yeah, the online stuff is good and we've been making do, but they want to see people face to face. I'm like, well, that's not that hard to do. So good things coming in 2021. Getting a lot of people together because, Keith, as I know you are well aware, there's a lot of interest in silver, I would say for good reason, and certainly something I know is on people's minds today. So let's kickstart it with this. Here we have one of the more fascinating silver charts I've seen. I think I've been spending far too much time clicking refresh on Kitco since about 2009. And this was even a whopper. Keith, I know you probably saw this. Yep. Spikes up about $1 on the open Sunday night.
Yep.
Then flat, then rallies more up to almost 27.50. And my question to you, Keith, what happened this morning between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. that silver lost $2.50 of value, then bounced back almost like the magic bullet in the magic bullet theory, back then up to 26.30-ish, quite a volatile chart. Keith, any thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, it seems to be just a repetitive chart. It seems to be that same time of the morning, the old silver smash. And then as soon as everybody starts waking up, recovery time starts pulling its socks back up. And I mean, it was looking solid, I thought, mostly day to day. You know, we're sort of hovering around that $26, which is just perfect. I think we've had a great consolidation on silver. I think gold and silver. Gold's been a little more sort of up and down here over the last month or so, but I think silver has got seems to be the basement is sort of low $24 level and seems to be averaging around $25 over the last couple of months. I think it's been a great consolidation for it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've never claimed to be a genius, so I was searching through the news and I don't know, I figured you had this headline come out. Congress reaches $900 billion COVID stimulus relief package. I mean, that seemed to be the main headline, so I don't know, maybe people saw this and thought at 1 a.m. in the morning they had to call their broker to sell their silver. Although, I don't know, when I saw it, I was thinking, gee, 900 billion, like, where's that going to come from?
Yeah.
Is Mitch paying for that one, or where? Now, Keith, it's a little bit of a stack question. I'm being a little bit of a smart ass today, but so here the U.S. is 27.5 trillion in debt. We'll have to update this to 28.4 now that we're adding 900 billion on there.
900 billion there, yeah.
But where does the money come from?
They just print it. It's just fiat printed. Where do they pull it out of thin air? Like,
no, Keith, come on. Let's be serious. We don't have to make like political monetary jokes. There's no way that the world's reserve currency, the bastion of economic freedom, where currencies across the globe are pegged to the dollar, and when the U.S. sneezes, the foreign economies catch a cold. So obviously, I know I actually think your joke's pretty funny myself, but seriously, where there's got to be, we just had the election. I didn't catch the debates, but what did the candidates say about how that's going to be funded?
Like, I couldn't tell you, Chris. I mean, they just keep printing it. It just comes out of thin air as far as I'm concerned. Where do they print it? Where do you think it doesn't come? This comes from thin air. That's just write another check. There you go.
Keith, I think we can add a, I didn't do much election coverage. It's not too popular on YouTube these days, I hear. But we could add a special little segment where just in the middle of this episode, we'll take a moment and discuss both candidates' policies as described during the debates on deficit reduction. Okay, now we're done with that, so we'll continue on here. Let's see, what are we getting here?
What is that 900 billion? Like, what did you say? That's for what? For Q1? That'll help them out through Q1, and then what?
Well, it's interesting. They've updated this article this morning when I saw it. They said that was through Q1, which at least the way I was reading it, I'm like, wait a second. So that 900 billion pop, that's only for a couple of months now?
That's just to get them by for a bit. That's not for the year. That's just a sort of little jump start for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, although I think there's opportunity in every situation. So for example, I think, I do things with Miles Franklin. We're going to set up a program, the Silver Stimulus Special, make it as easy as possible for people to convert their $600 check into silver, hopefully at somewhere around the same pricing, because Keith, in all seriousness, I mean, we saw silver finally move this year. I don't think it was completely unconnected to what the Fed is doing. Like, what are people supposed to think? I mean, this is like when the warning bells should be going off and they're just firing bigger shots.
Yeah, like I just, it's mind boggling. Like it's, I like how much stimulus can they add? Wasn't it, I think it was Andy Schectman, I think it wasn't him, said that they added 26% like to the system, to the monetary system here just in 1 year. Like, to me, that seems like that's a very large number for 1 year. And we're coming in now, we're already starting with just the starting 800 billion for the start of Q1 of 2021. Like, I mean, how much can they continue to do? Like, is 26% not a rather large number?
Perhaps we could ask some German investors where they have a much different understanding, much different gold and silver culture too, because probably that, I would imagine, not imagine, I was actually got to read, it was by Adam Ferguson, The Death of Money, where he described what happened there. And is this not starting to get pretty similar? And I don't want to say that is not a fear tactic, but just, and I'm not afraid of it. I mean, when you understand what they're doing, you can prepare and make plans around it. But I mean, is there, or I don't know, can you see some other way this is headed?
Not at all. I mean, it's like, there's no backing up. There's no backing the truck up anymore. I mean, it's just continual, just add it. I mean, it's so out of control now. Interest rates at zero. I mean, I just don't see any other way. I mean, this is like, how do you don't unwind this. You only keep inflating it. This is the only path I see in the future, for the near future anyways. Is there going to come a point where you can start to back it up? I don't see it.
Well, I don't see it either. And it's interesting. There's a lot of reasons why, but we'll stick with one in particular. You remember back in 2018, the Fed really, it was like Paul Volcker was back in there. They jacked interest rates up to 2.5%. And I'm sure everyone remembers 2 Christmases ago when their portfolios were getting dinged pretty good, because here you see that dip. There's, in my mind, a very specific reason. For the same reasons the housing bubble imploded when it did, because you had lowered the credit policy, or the interest rates, and then when you tried to undo that, the whole thing cratered, is the same exact reason it happened in 2018, and the same exact reason that it would happen if you, even if there were a political will guess we don't have to say like a banking and a political bill now that Janet Yellen's in the White House. We could just like save a little ink, breath, one title. But I mean, even if there was someone like if you had Paul Volcker or Ron Paul became president, am I right that the current system, monetary system in the US is past the point of no return?
That's how I look at it. I mean, I look right now, you've got not an economic recovery, but you've had a stock market recovery. You've got, like, I know here in Vancouver where I live, real estate's just going out of control right now. Like, it's because of these low interest rates. Like, what happens when you start to move those up, and can they move them up? I mean, you could have a serious collapse in real estate. I mean, we're at it, like you said, the point of no return. We've gone over that cliff. We've gone over the edge. You can't start backing it up now. These people that are buying houses right now are based on virtually no interest, right? So I mean, like, you can't keep money in the bank. So you either buy housing, stocks. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to keep money in the bank anymore. And that's why the spending continues, I guess. I mean, I think there's a big disconnect in I'd say the economy too, as far as you hear the stories of the businesses that are going under, people that can't feed their family, can't pay their rent, but yet you've got real estate going to the next level. Like, there's a bit of a disconnect that I don't quite get right now. And if you did start to raise interest rates, it could get scary.
Yeah, well, I guess that's one we don't have to worry about from the Fed. What
We're
did
not
you
even thinking about raising interest rates, right? Like, what happens when he thinks about thinking about raising interest rates? Is that when everything starts to come off again, or I don't know?
When you talk about Jerome Powell, it makes me reach for a silver coin on my desk and like put it close to me. It's like a condom against the Fed.
Yeah.
Silver, your condom against the Federal Reserve. There you go. Keith, perhaps you can help me out here.
Okay.
So here's the Fed's balance sheet. Are our faces blocking that, or can you see on your screen this vertical spike up here?
Yep.
So, people sometimes say like, well, it's going vertical or exponential. That can't last. But the dollar in the US used to be backed by gold, right? That was the foundation, the pinning of the monetary system, which created the entire system of US capitalism, correct?
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, I can't. Some of this stuff writes itself, because there's this story last week where the US was accusing not only Switzerland of being a currency manipulator, but really like fighting the evils in the world, Vietnam, who, I mean, like, as if the Vietnam War wasn't enough. Let's say 40 years, 50 years later that's the problem in the economic world. But Keith, I'm a little confused. If you confiscate the nation's gold and you give them $21 an ounce, and a couple of years later you say now it's worth 35, I don't know if that, I mean, would that seem like currency manipulation? Yet going back here, the system this is all based on, you have Ben Bernanke, who says he doesn't understand gold.
Yeah.
Doesn't know anybody else who does. No, couldn't Google it. You can find any YouTube videos. But yes, here we are years later, his circle of virtuosity that he talked about, his Washington Post op-ed, this is what's going vertical. And I would say the gold price, and I think soon to be the silver price, when they rise, is only matching this. Keith, what am I missing there?
I have to agree. I mean, it has to kind of match that. I mean, I don't see any other way. I mean, gold has been a store of value for thousands of years. And, maybe the dollar, it's not backed by gold anymore, but I mean, it's just a fiat worthless currency. Like, I mean, how can gold not be worth a lot more than what it's worth right now? And silver, way, way higher. Like, I think we're going to come to the point maybe this year where everybody's going, geez, silver's really come off. It's down to $50. That's going to start being the lows on silver. I can see that coming.
Yes, that would seem right. And although let's think about that for a second. All right, I'm running the silver channel. I have stuff with Miles Franklin. I have silver sponsors. I'd say that was long after I ever started doing any of this, but all right, let's say $50 silver. with what the Fed is doing, and then when you add in what we just discussed of why they cannot raise interest rates, whether, I don't know, maybe it takes some number of years longer than I think possible, but isn't the Fed guaranteeing they're going to print enough? I mean, they're doing $1 trillion at a pop now per quarter.
Yeah.
And some of that money flows out into the financial system. Doesn't, under those parameters, when it's, I mean, there's some things where it's like, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. Can you tell me another way that they don't force $50 silver eventually?
I don't see it. I mean, I think there's only one trajectory for silver and gold, and that's much higher. The state of the economy and where the U.S. is at right now, I only see one trajectory, and that's up, and quite a bit higher, and like a lot higher, to be honest. I couldn't be like, I think silver, again, it's not just a monetary, it also has an industrial side to it, which I think the industrial sort of element of it is a huge, huge thing for silver now, especially, going green is going silver, right? So I see gold more as the store of value and monetary value. Silver does have that, but gold more so. So gold, as it's going up, silver is going to tag along for sure. And I think silver percentage-wise should do a hell of a lot better than what gold does. I mean, what are we now? We're about an 80-to-1 sort of ratio right now. I think it is close to that. The silver gold ratio, and what's it coming out of the ground at? It's 8-to-1. We start to fill in that gap a little bit, and then you put in the industrial side to it, the uses. You listen to guys like Keith Neumeyer and just the industrial component to these, between solar panels going green, electric cars and all that stuff. I mean, it's not a huge component for a car, but it's a necessary. So whether they're paying $50 an ounce or $100 an ounce, they have to buy it regardless. You look at what's happened to palladium, platinum, those kind of metals, same thing.
Yeah, and Keith, perhaps we could share a little bit about your background, because you've been a broker, you've been around investments, you've been around trading floors, so you've seen the range of different things that go on. Could you share a little bit about that, and how, of all the things that you could be doing on planet Earth, why, I mean, I know you get the emails every day, silver's manipulated, why bother with it? So of all the things, could you share how you got to where you are now?
Okay, well, I can share sort of an analogy, I guess, to what I think is with the silver market. When I listen to all your expert sort of guests, between the Andrew McGuires, Andy Schechtman, Dave Kranzer, all these guys on here, and I listen to them and I take in what they're saying and stuff. And it sounds like there's a lot of smart money and a lot of big money that's been taking silver off the market, taking delivery, like COMEX, bigger deliveries than ever before. But it's not mainstream. It's not everybody out there talking about it so far. So what it reminds me of is as a young junior sort of rookie broker coming in and sort of getting an idea like, hey, this sector's starting to look pretty good. You're looking at a couple stocks, and then you get the upper management, right? Says, everybody in the boardroom, we want to have a little sort of chat this afternoon. And they come in and they start pounding their fists on the table about the best buy, what every broker should be telling every client to be buying right now. Well, it took me a little while to figure out. They weren't telling me that, and they weren't competing with me to buy at the same time. They were already pretty long before they started pounding that fist on the table. And that's kind of where I see silver right now, and gold, is the smart money's been accumulating, taking it off the market, taking deliveries. And pretty soon the fist pounding will start, and that's when the mainstream, and that's when silver, I think, really takes off. And it's such a finite market that it's not going to take a big investment to clean this up to some pretty lofty levels from where it's at anyways. That's my take on it. It's my own personal take.
And so as someone who's been a broker, what would you say? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, they've worked their entire life. They've put money into a 401k. They see what's going on. They see things that, this idea, I have this investing rule. If you say it out loud, and it's hard to say with a straight face without laughing, like, economy's weak, we're just going to print up $1 trillion. So what would you say to people who are like seeing this and wondering how to respond financially?
Well, I guess my investment advisor side of me says, you take a certain percentage of your income, your wealth or whatever, and you put it into precious metals, into the gold, silver. You and I have a little different take on that. I'm more like, let's go 95%. Let's keep enough money in the bank to pay the bills, buy the groceries. The rest of the money I'm going to start, because I'm that confident and I'm that bullish on the precious metals that I'm no longer a 10% sort of my money goes into that. I'm a much larger percentage. I don't see any other way right now. The only thing that worries me is if we have a bit of a pullback in the broader markets in general, like we saw back in March when the COVID took place, because I think the markets were already starting to go into that direction at the end of 2019 before COVID happened. COVID just kind of pushed us over a little bit. We've had this weird sort of recovery, not on the economic side, but on the stock market side. So if that pulls back, silver's going to pull back, gold's going to pull back, the stocks will pull back as well. But the one thing I am confident is that we will be the first sector of the market to pull out of that. And you'll see taillights on both gold and silver and a lot of the gold and silver stocks. So you might get hurt a little bit on a general pullback, but I think that's where you want to have, a good portion of your, your investing money is in silver. Have your physical, which is the money, your security blanket, the where you want to store your wealth. Then you move down the line, you come into talk to Keith Newmeyer, buy First Majestic. You got some great company with great upside. And then you move down, you get some of the mid caps that have, decent asset, ready to go into production, stuff like that. They've got some really good upside. Then you come down even further down to where I'm at, and that's exploration side. And it's as risky as it gets. And it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for everybody. But the riskier the purchase, the bigger reward, right? So when you're looking at a company like mine, you're looking at, hopefully getting 100, 200, 500% return. First Majestic, I mean, it's got huge upside to it. Just look at where silver's even at right now. What is their bottom line going to look like? I mean, their cost didn't rise when silver went from 15, 16 bucks to 25 bucks. Their cost for First Majestic to produce that silver hasn't increased, but their bottom line sure has. So I'm looking at it this way. I look at the company that I have, well, in general, buy your sort of store of wealth, buy the physical, buy the big caps, buy the First Majestics, buy the big producers, have some of those, then have some of the mid caps, and then put your risk money, buy some stuff like what we have, because there's potential major upside. If we start having a rising silver market, which I'm confident we will, and where I stand right now with my company is we've got a ton of news to come out, probably starting January. We should have a very good steady flow of news, more work programs. We've just completed phase 1, ready for phase 2. So, we're going to have a good, steady flow of news coming. And with a rising market, good assays, our market cap's pretty small right now.
Yeah, and Keith, for folks who might be new to Silver Sands, can you give them an overview? I mean, you talked a little bit about it there, but basically where you're at. I know it's actually an interesting how you found this deal, because one of the things that I think is a rightful question many folks have when it comes to the mining stock, if the project's so great, why was it just sitting there? But if you can give, for people who are hearing the first time, just the broad picture of where you guys are at.
Okay, well, real quick, a history on it. Before silver taken off, so we're looking back at sort of January, February is when I was first introduced to Mirasol. It was my geologist actually that found the property. We went in, the sentiment for silver was still really low at the time. Mirasol, their project generator, they've got properties throughout Chile and into Argentina. I think they at the time were itching to get a deal done. They hadn't, the stock was kind of, trading almost at their cash breakup. So I think we just happened to be there at the right time, right place at the right time. We had an agreement done up with probably within an hour, an agreement to do an LOI. I announced an LOI at the end of February to purchase 100% of this property through an expenditure. So how the deal worked with Mirasol was we can buy 100% of the project, $6 million US in exploration over 3 years. We start, first year is $1 million US, second year is 2 million, third year is 3 million US. And then we give them stock. We gave them 9.9% of the issued and outstanding upon signing the definitive agreement, which we did back in May 21st. And then we top up 5% first anniversary, 5%, and a final 5% for the second anniversary, which they'll end up being a shareholder. They'll own 19.9% of the issued and outstanding of our company. All the money that we're putting up is all for exploration. They're running the program because they're the ones that have been on there since discovery back in like 2000. Well, they've had the property since the early 2000s. The Virginia silver discovery was made 2009. We got the same operators that made the discovery that have done all the work to date. They've produced a 43101 compliant resource with 12 million indicated ounces at an average grade of about 300 grams per ton. And then they've got another inferred resource of about another 2 million ounces with about a 200 gram per ton average. Now, that's not a mine, but it's a great starting point. And that's what, I think we're at. We're at a starting point. We've got 15 million ounces that we're just going to start adding to. So we're going along strike. There's some other interesting areas that they've found through rock chip sample trenching and IP that we're going to be following up on. But our main goal here and what our first sort of pass on the property, we started back in sort of end of September through October. We did 2,800 meters drilling. That was all along structures and a couple new sort of interesting type areas. We did was another 95 kilometers of IP, which has been really helpful in identifying these structures. And then 2,500 meters of trenching. All that work was completed. We wrapped up the drilling last week. All the equipment stayed on the property. And so we're going to have a continual flow of news starting January. We'll start getting the assays. Assay labs have been backed up as like most places, especially with COVID and that. But our assays, yeah, it starts January. We've already given an indication that we're ready for a second year's budget already to start January as soon as they can get going. They're anticipating January 15th. So intense drill program. We've done the first pass. We've got lots of news to come on the results from that, whether it's the trenching, the IP, and the drilling, and then right into drilling starting January 15th. And we're going to go full tilt right through until the weather starts to set in. So pretty exciting times and lots of news to come.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they'll let us into the country and I'll be able to make it down there to see it sooner than later. Keith, last one for you. What's the best case scenario if everything goes right? And then what are the risks to that best case scenario that I know you're each day planning and making preparations to be able to move around and be nimble? What would you say about that?
Well, my whole plan, and I think the idea with my crew and the people that I work with, what our idea was right from the beginning is we're surrounded by a number of senior miners and stuff around our property. We got Sierra Negra owned by Newmont just up to the north. You got Hochschild's McEwen just to the north of them, Pan American Silver. My goal is to build on that 15 million ounce resource. We're confident through following these structures and going to depth, we'll start adding ounces. I don't know if we'll have an updated resource in the first quarter, but we're hoping maybe at least by the second half of the year, we'll have an updated resource. If we start getting up to that 30 to 50 million plus ounces, then we start becoming attractive. And I would really, to put a mine into production, that's 10 years plus. That's, millions and millions of dollars in exploration and getting it to that stage. I'm not interested in that. I want to prove up enough ounces as fast as I can, take advantage of what I think is going to be a crazy precious metal market over the next 2 to 5 years. If I get enough ounces proved up in that point, then, hopefully one of our neighbors will come knocking and, they'll take an interest. I think we've got a good property. It's got huge upside potential and it's rich. And the nice thing is, as you know, is it's all silver. We're not a byproduct of anything. This is 100% silver, what we're going after, which is unique. There's not a lot of companies out there that are 100% silver. And that's kind of my goal, is just to prove up the ounces and find a partner, somebody to come and take us out, take a stab at us for sure.
Well, who knows? We do have a lot of mining companies that watch the show, so good to throw that out there. And Keith, perhaps just wrapping up, can you let folks know if they want to stay posted, get more info, share the website and how they can best be in touch with you?
Sure. The website, it's silversandscorp.com. There's a number there for my IR department. You can get a hold of anybody from the IR. My number is also on there. You want more information, you want to hear what I'm thinking about the project, give me a call. There's, as far as where we trade, we're trading on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol SAND. And we also have full listing QTC or OTCQB listing on the US, and that's under the symbol of SSRSF. And actually on that note, we're anticipating, I think we've been approved now for our DTC eligibility. We applied for that back probably a couple months ago. So that as far as I'm concerned, has been approved, and we should be announcing something on that front here pretty quick.
Well, Keith, I sure appreciate that. And the link to all that will be in the description below. So Keith, thank you for joining me. Great to have an update, and happy holidays, my friend. It'll be exciting to continue following your success, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
That'd be great. Have a very Merry Christmas, Chris, and thanks again for having me on your show. Much appreciated.
I'm, just about certain that there's going to be some kind of failure on the Big Short's part in silver.